Welcome everyone to this DLTV webinar on the 3rd of December 2020. And today, as you can see, we have a plethora of speakers that are going to be sharing about really interesting work that's being done with Minecraft for education and in schools. In a moment, I'll be handing over to today's host, Lauren Arkley from the Digital Services Unit at the Department of Ed and Training Victoria, and Lauren will introduce our other speakers. You can see on this slide some information and links for other upcoming webinars organised by DLTV, as well as recordings from previous webinars this year. As I mentioned, we will be recording this webinar. The recording will be available hopefully within 10 days from today, so you may want to subscribe to the YouTube channel at the bit.ly link there. Because we are recording, we do ask everyone to keep your microphones muted and your cameras off, unless you're invited to talk by one of the presenters. But we do encourage you to use the text chat. The chat's available with the little bubble there. In the meeting, if you'd like to ask questions during the webinar, and the presenters will keep track of the questions coming through, and there'll certainly be moments during the webinar to have those questions answered. So without further ado, I will hand over to Lauren Arkley. Thanks, Lauren.
Thanks, Nathan. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar this evening, where we're going to be taking a look at some of our learnings and experiences from using Minecraft across Australian classrooms. Before we do begin, I'd just like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land in which I'm speaking today and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land where you're all joining us from today. Now, as Nathan said, we do have a number of speakers joining us today. I will speak very, very briefly just to go over some of the department's offerings with Minecraft Education Edition, but then I'll pass on to Dr. Bron Stuckey, who's going to be sharing some of the benefits that she's identified through her research and experience with Minecraft. We're also joined today by two of our Minecraft Innovation Cluster teacher superstars, Kirsty and Julie, who are going to be sharing what they've been doing in their classrooms. And then we have Dr. Matthew Harrison and Jess Rowlings, who are going to share all of their work in setting up their YellowCraft server. As Nathan said, through today's session, please feel free to pop any of those questions you have into the chat, and I'll try and address those before we move on to the next speaker. As part of my role in the Department of Education, I work to support Victorian Government school teachers and how they use Minecraft Education Edition in the classroom. And to do that, we provide a range of support materials which can be found on those two links on the screen. I will post those into the chat once I've finished speaking. The first one there is our ARC education platform, which is new this year, where you can sign up for professional learning opportunities and find some virtual learning experiences for your students. So from time to time, you will find some Minecraft webinars posted in there. But we've also got our Fuse page where you can find lots of support resources, lesson plans, and you can also access our mini Melbourne Minecraft world, which you can download for any version of Minecraft, as well as Archaeology Adventure. Now, during 2020, one of the biggest support resources that Bron Stuckey and I have worked together to create is our Minecraft Innovation Cluster, which at the moment supports 100 teachers, and I think it's nearly about 50 schools across Victoria, and we do that through Microsoft Teams. And in this community, Bron and I facilitate professional learning sessions. We have drop-in nights where you can come in and share some of the things that you're doing in your classroom, or perhaps some of the challenges. And we do offer some really fun projects and challenges for our schools to take part in. Now, we are looking to invite new teachers to join in our Minecraft Innovation Cluster community, and we would love to have some of you join. So if you're in a Victorian Government school and you're interested in Minecraft, please use the link on the screen there. It's aka.ms/MEE cluster, and you can fill out an expression of interest form to join us. We've got so many exciting projects ahead of us for 2021, including secondary school projects. Now I'm just going to pass over to Dr. Bron Stuckey, and she is going to take over the next part. Thanks.
Thanks, Lauren. I just want to give a very quick little bit of research because I think it's important to understand that there is a good evidence base growing to show the value of Minecraft in formal, informal, and non-formal learning contexts. And I think we need to understand a little bit of what that might be about. If you don't know me, I've worked in virtual worlds and games for about 15 years now, and with Minecraft for probably the last 10, and Minecraft Education Edition for the 4 or 5 years that it's been around. So I've seen a lot of different contexts and come to look at some research in that area. So Lauren, if you want to pass on, next slide. Thanks. So the first little bit of theory that I do want to cover is what I think is the mainstay of why games are very popular and why in particular Minecraft is very popular. And it comes down to self-determination theory, which is a theory developed as part of motivational research done by Ryan and Desi in 2000. And they proposed a theory that there were 3 main components of human motivation, and that was autonomy, competence, and relatedness. And that, you know, we see these and you'll hear them in the stories that are going to come from the classroom teachers and from Matt and Jess talking about the implementations of Minecraft. So from those 3, autonomy, competence, and relatedness, people develop volition, motivation, and engagement. And those are all things we really want in education, which in turn fosters enhanced performance, persistence, and creativity. If you could move the slide on, Lauren. So when we look at Minecraft, this competence comes about as students are developing knowledge in the field that the activity is engaged in. And you'll find when you hear from Kirsty and from Julie in their coming up talks that the students aren't necessarily talking about Minecraft, they're talking about coding, they're talking about leadership, they're talking about design. So they're talking about the curriculum areas that Minecraft's being pulled into as a tool. They're developing competence in those areas. If it's history, then they're developing history knowledge and history learning. Autonomy is when we're allowing the students to become the creators, to be the designers, to make the choices in their own learning. And that's more than just, you know, 1 or 2, take this or that, use this or that. It's real autonomy where the students are developing their own learning environment. They're choosing their own point of assessment. They're suggesting when they meet the competencies. Maybe they're even checking off their own rubric as they're working through the activities that they're doing. And then the relatedness comes through in how students relate to each other. Minecraft is a very social environment, as you'll hear from the speakers that follow. And it's also how they relate to the content they're learning. So students are getting involved in citizenship, mentorship, leadership, developing skills in a virtual world that will stand them stead in the physical world. And so there's a lot that's not actually happening entirely in the game, but surrounds the game that is part of self-determination theory. Now, self-determination is what brought Minecraft to school. Minecraft is probably the first tool in learning that kids brought to school, not the teachers. Kids brought it into the classroom. Teachers came to me saying, what's this Minecraft thing I'm hearing from my kids? What is this all about? And so it's that self-determination without knowing the language kids have recognised, and why Minecraft and games like Minecraft are very popular. The students feel that they're getting these areas, competence, autonomy, and relatedness. So if we can move on. And then there's a second piece of theory I think is really important here for us as educators. And it's a very simple little layer to add on to the self-determination theory, is Liz Kolb's Triple E framework. Now, we might have used SAMR and other frameworks, but Liz has proposed that some of those focus a little too heavily on the technology and not enough on the curriculum goals. And so her 3 E's is to look at engagement, enhancement, and extension of the learning goals. So how does the tool engage students in the learning goals? How does it enhance the learning goals that you had? And how does it extend those learning goals? And in essence, this is what makes Minecraft really appeal to educators, because they're seeing this engagement, enhancement, and extension in the activities their students are engaging in. Yes, please, Lauren. So if you see here, you'll see engage is on the left, and I'm not going to read through that, but then we have enhance and extend. And one point about technology is it's very sexy, it's very fun, it's great to engage in. Lots of Minecraft is very fun, but we can't stop there. Engagement is the starting point and absolutely essential. We really must engage our students. But it could be a sad indictment on school that that's where we stop by saying, you know, the kids were really engaged. We did this and the kids loved it. But did it meet your learning goals? Was it enhancing your learning goals? Was it extending the capacity of the students to learn in that particular curriculum area? So the note of caution that we need to take up, thanks Lauren, is that engagement is the floor, not the ceiling. So we must have engagement, absolutely, and Minecraft is very engaging. And Liz Kolb reminds us, double check yourself. Are your students engaged with the curriculum when they're using that tool, or are they engaged with the tool? Are they enamored of the tool? So we have to be very careful that we're keeping curriculum running the race here, not the tool. So engagement is the floor, but we want to push beyond that. We want to enhance and extend. And we see a lot of that with Minecraft. You'll see that in the stories that are coming up. So for me, this is a set of affordances that Minecraft offers. So in terms of motivational affordances, it's that autonomy, competence, and relatedness. And for curricular affordances, it's the capacity to engage, enhance, and extend. And as you hear the stories today, I want you to think about where you can see these things lived out. I know each of these stories, and I could check all of those across each story, but I want you to pay attention as you hear them and see where is self-determination and where are the 3 E's. So that's
Bron. Sorry, I was on mute when I was saying thank you there. Thank you, Bron. Over to you, Kirsty from Wallan Primary School.
Hi, everyone. So I'm the specialist digital technologies teacher at Wallan Primary School, and so I use Minecraft a lot. I'm very quickly becoming the most popular teacher in the school because we do Minecraft in my room. And with my grade sixes, particularly, we've introduced coding in Minecraft using the agent. If you want to just move on to the next slide for me, Lauren. So in Minecraft, there's a little agent guy. He looks like a little robot, and you can code him to complete tasks for you. And you will find on Minecraft Education, if you go into the computer science area, there are loads and loads and loads of pre-made resources for you to use. So you don't need to make any of the resources yourself. They're already there for you and already there for the kids to access. So this is the first one. I started about this time last year, term 4 last year, learning to code using the agent myself, and learned alongside my kids because I had no idea even how to place a block in Minecraft, never mind to code an agent to do it for me. So this world is, I've written at the top here, you go to library, how to play, additional resources, and code builder tutorial. And it takes you through about 8 different challenges where you have to code the agent, and they start very, very basic, where he has to just move forwards and backwards and stand on certain pressure plates, and then they become a little more advanced as you move on. So it's a great world for the students just to explore and start off at their level where they think they are and move forward from there. So some kids start right back at activity number 1, and some kids decide, okay, I'm going to start a little bit further along because I think I can achieve more here. So it's an excellent resource to get you started with the very basics of coding your agent. You want to click on to the next one, Lauren? Then I moved on to Minecraft Code Town, which in library lessons, computer science and Hour of Code. And luckily there's a new Hour of Code button with new updates, so it will take you straight there. Just click on to the next one for me, Lauren. And very similar to the other world, there are activities with different levels of coding. And what I really love about it is it only gives you the code blocks that the student needs. So they're not overwhelmed with all these different logic statements, etc. They only get given the code blocks that they need to complete the activity. So it really just simplifies the coding and makes them focus on exactly what they need to do. So you can see in the picture here, the little agent just needs to move around the wall and stand on the gold pressure plate, and the crate will open, and he will get the puzzle piece that he needs. But you can see you could complete that very basically by just using the agent move forward block and using that over and over again, or you could refine your code by using a repeat loop if you understood and you knew how to use that. So there is an opportunity for the kids to take that to the next level. And then Lauren, if you just move on one, there are, this is kind of a medium level one, so there's maybe 10 or 15 different activities for the students to complete. This is one that's sort of mid-level, where they have to code the agent to move up the stairs and stand on a pressure plate to open the door. And you can see again, they could complete it very basically, or they could use a repeat loop to refine their code to make it more efficient. And then Lauren, if you move on to the last one. This one is one of the more advanced activities that they can complete, where the agent starts in the bottom left-hand corner, and you have to code him to get to the pressure plate in the middle. And you can see on my little screenshot, they can do it using basic code if that's the level that they're working at, but they could also refine it using a conditional, and the one they use here is while false or while true. So you could code it saying while the goal is not reached, move forward, or turn right or turn left, to make the code more efficient. So there are lots of different activities, and if a student starts one and thinks this is too hard for me, they can come straight back out of it and go to one that's more at their level. So it's very open-ended, but it also provides great opportunities for you to differentiate your students into groups and to do an actual mini lesson with them based on one that they're finding a little tricky at the time. All right, Lauren. From there, we moved on, and you can see I actually haven't explored all of these resources yet. I've just worked on Coding Fundamentals number 1, which you can see how to get there on the top. And there are 6 mini lessons in here. Each one takes about 1 hour for the students to complete. Lauren, just click on to the next one. You can see here, it gives very clear instructions on what the student has to do to complete the activity, and it's color coded, so they know that when they're reading the instructions, that's the color of the code block that they need, and it's also only provides you with the pieces of code that you need to complete. So again, not too overwhelming for the students. And you can see on the top right hand side, there's a little light bulb. They can click on there to get a hint if they can't figure it out themselves, or they've had a try and they haven't quite made it. They can get a little hint in the top right hand corner as well. Move on to the next one, Lauren. And then this is lesson number 3. So lesson number 1 and 2 are just kind of back to the basics, and then number 3 introduces loops and again introduces conditionals and negative conditionals, where you can use the language if then or while then to complete the activity. And this one, the little agent has to build a bridge across the chasm, and again they only get given the blocks that they need, so they have to give the agent the blocks and use a conditional to say while there is not a block below the agent, you need to place a block there and move forward. Okay, Lauren? Then lesson number 5, things get a lot trickier. So it depends what level your students are on, but these guys, we've started using nested loops in lesson number 5. So that's a loop with a repeat within a repeat. So for example, if you were building a cube or something like that, you could create the basic code and then just repeat it to move up to make it 3D. And it also includes more negative conditionals, more tricky ones, which you will see on the next slide, where the agent needs to move through this field, and every time he reaches an obstacle, he needs to decide whether he's going to turn left or right. And you can see the code that they use there. These lessons, the coding fundamentals, also come with detailed lesson plans. So don't feel like you need to do the lesson first and learn how to do it yourself. They come with lesson plans that explains each activity, and it gives you the code that is correct. So you can always have that on hand if you need to, if you're needing to help a student and you don't actually know how to complete it yourself. There's all the answers are already there, and you can download those directly off when you go into the world. You can download the lesson plans there. All right, Lauren. Once we finished all of those, I felt like it was time to the students to work on some more different concepts using all the learning that they've done. And so I gave them a piece of code which I had created in Minecraft, and I asked them to build it for me in Lego. So they had to deconstruct the code, and then they had to use the blocks in Lego and build it. And I gave them a little Lego man to use as their agent if they need it. But to be honest, a lot of them didn't use it. They just went straight ahead. They could figure it out because they'd had all that prior knowledge from the lessons. And then one more slide to go, Lauren. And this was this week. The students partnered up, and they one built something in Lego, built a structure, and the other student had to code the agent to build the same structure in Minecraft. And you can see them really manipulating the Lego and turning it around and looking at it upside down in all different ways to figure out how they would code that in Minecraft. And you can see on their screens their creations that they made. And really quite complex code. Some of them really blew me away with how much they understood what they were doing. So I thought it was really worthwhile lesson, and they absolutely loved it. So I definitely recommend, if you've got a big box of Lego, there's an activity for you to complete. And that's me, I think.
Thanks, Kirsty. That was great. I love that. Those last two slides, those activities, they look great. I'm just going to pass over now to Julie from Lyndale Secondary College.
Okay, thank you. I'm a little bit like Kirsty. Minecraft has made me also quite popular in my school. I'm now known as the Minecraft teacher. I've lost my name and my identity completely, but that's okay. My initial aim, if you could go to the next slide, Lauren. Thank you. My initial aim was to use Minecraft to bridge the gap for students who started secondary school with limited coding and programming skills. And there are many factors or situations that lead us to a determination of disengagement in a student. And across this year, I've experienced an increase in disengagement simply because of remote learning. So we've had a lot of disengaged students in 2020. If you could pop onto the next slide, please. When I joined the Minecraft Innovation Cluster at the start of 2020, I wanted to use Minecraft to bridge the gap for students who started secondary school with limited coding and programming skills. And if we could pop to the next one, please. As I was a Minecraft novice, I incorporated Minecraft into a Year 7 class as a starting point. And similar to Kirsty, we worked through the computer science lessons as part of a game-making learning sequence. Incorporating a tool that the students were familiar with enabled them to focus on the basic coding skills they needed to actually learn and to meet the subject outcomes. Next slide, please. I also noticed an immediate and considerable shift in the classroom dynamic. Students had always been excited about digital technology classes, but now their confidence, communication and collaboration skills really started to shine. The quiet students found their voice. Students who had been disengaged and uncomfortable with their transition to secondary school became leaders in the Minecraft activities and also in game development. So for 72 minutes, 2 times a week, 25 Year 7 students were immersed in a dynamic community that they created for themselves. They became the drivers of the lessons and they invited me to join them. After completing the computer science modules, available in Minecraft. The students worked in groups to develop games that they showcased in game review lessons. And then we also started to review some Minecraft lessons for other learning areas. The students completed the Mindful Night activity and evaluated it for our assemblies program. We explored Mini Melbourne, and once every 2 weeks we completed one of the monthly build challenges. I started thinking about how I could incorporate Minecraft into my Year 10 classes in semester 2, which was really a bit scary because older students can be way more judgmental, and I wasn't quite sure how it would go. I had a couple of school refusers. I had a couple of students with additional learning needs and some very, very quiet and withdrawn students. I very quickly learned that these students were the true Minecraft experts. They enjoyed completing an economic sectors activity and asked if they could use Minecraft to present their assessment task on a comparison of 3 countries using economic indicators. Well, why not? In a design learning sequence, I also had a group of students who worked on creating a visual tour of our school. So Minecraft has become a tool that I now offer all my students as an option alongside the standard presentations, reports, infographics, videos, whatever, for their assessment task submissions. Not every student chooses Minecraft, but the important point is that it is a valid and powerful option for them. Minecraft clubs are also now running 3 lunchtimes each week. One group of girls is working with Newlands Intermediate School in New Zealand to establish an international esports league, and they have their first international competition on the 9th of December, and this is creating a lot of interest and excitement. So most students, regardless of their level of engagement, have embraced Minecraft and have shown me how valuable it is as a tool to incorporate into my teaching. I saw growth in leadership, communication, collaboration, problem solving, coding, creativity, and entrepreneurship in addition to engagement. We could pop to the next slide, please. The students, particularly those you least expect, are the experts, and they will help you navigate the world of Minecraft. Minecraft is now a go-to tool that I will incorporate at any opportunity. If we can pop to the next one, please. I've learned and witnessed some big thinking and amazing achievements from my students. Minecraft is inclusive, it's instantly engaging, and it promotes student voice and choice. I'm still exploring the possibilities, which so far appear to be limitless for me. More than any tool I've ever used, it's a great leveller, which is so important, particularly in our secondary classrooms. It's inclusive, it's instantly engaging, it's got the limitless possibilities for curriculum application, it encourages community and collaboration, and most importantly, it is actually fun. So I've found that disengagement, for me, disappears, and that enables me to help the students progress on their learning journey, which is what teaching is all about. Thank you.
Thanks, Julie. Thank you for that. I'm going to pass over now to Dr. Matthew Harrison and Jess Rowlings. I'll just stop sharing my screen.
Thank you, Lauren, and thank you, everyone. I was just so excited hearing all from Bron and Kirsty and Julianne, because there's themes of inclusion right throughout their presentations. So this actually ties into the theme that we're going to be discussing today, and it's the idea of using Minecraft as an inclusive space. So I'm just going to share my screen, and if I can just get a thumbs up from Lauren, you're the first person that I see. Okay, and present. Yeah, wonderful. That's great. So today we're talking about using Minecraft as a space for inclusive play. And I'm here with Jess Rowlings.
Hi everyone, so I'm Jess. I'm a speech pathologist by trade. I now work in research. And I'm actually autistic myself and have ADHD. And yeah, using games as an inclusive space is an area of interest to me. Gaming was how I grew up. You know, it was my entertainment. I made friends, social connections online, and it was a nice little escape from, you know, the big wide world. So it's exciting to be here and yeah, talk about this with you all.
Yeah, and as I was introduced by Lauren, my name is Dr. Matthew Harrison, commonly referred to as Matt, and my day job is running the Autism Intervention Program at the Melbourne Graduate School of Education. I know some people here in the audience have actually I've actually taught them in the past, which is really exciting. So I'm a teacher by trade. I worked in mainstream schools for 8 years here and in the UK and South Korea, and then I returned home and I worked in a special development school. So we are both massive gamers, Jess and I. Something that really sort of got us talking about how we can use games to transform the way that we talk about inclusive education as a real space and area of strength for many of the kids that we work with. And so we really look at these two models. Jess, would you like to introduce? Yes.
Sorry, I feel like my internet's a little bit behind you, so I'm really sorry. It's not having a good day. So we have pretty much two main forms of inclusive play that use cooperative video games to develop collaborative social skills, facilitate friendships, and foster a sense of belonging. The first of these is the virtual playground model, which is a more free play creative type activity. And then we have, sorry, I've forgot to pop up. And then digital games-based intervention is the other one, which is a more structured, more explicit teaching method. So in terms of the virtual playground model, this is student-led, and then interactions are supported by teaching staff or, speechies, anybody else who might be involved. The focus of virtual playgrounds is to encourage social connection and a sense of belonging and having, a place where these kids are free to express themselves. And the really key thing with this model is that it actually celebrates the differences of autism and allows neurodiverse players to engage on their own terms. So they can actually choose what they interact with, choose what they want to do, and find things to do that are the most appropriate for them.
Yeah, so in the research I've done, and it's my past life as a teacher working with kids on the spectrum, we found that what was really important was about Minecraft. And what was really exciting was that it allowed our students to interact in multiple ways on their own terms. And a key part of this was when we've looked at lunchtime gaming clubs or after school gaming clubs, we've really looked at how can we make sure that these clubs meet the needs of our students. And one key part of this was this idea of democratically deciding the community values and expected behaviours through this process called co-design. And this is a really big thing that's coming out now, the idea of co-designing community values and expected behaviours. So we know that all gaming communities they've got the socially constructed boundaries that sit outside of the rules of the game. So the game designers make these games so they follow certain rules. Games have physics engines. There's things that the game will let you do and won't let you do. But there's also these sort of agreements between the players around you can do this, or if you want to do this, you should ask this person. And these are what we call the socially constructed rules. And these are things that we see, in the schoolyard usually, and we also see these in the virtual playgrounds as well. We want to make sure that what we are implementing meets the needs of all the users or players. And one way of doing that is by just asking. It's really simple, by surveying the playing community. And we really suggest from our research we've done working with a range of schools is using something like Google Forms and using really open-ended questions. So we talk about the idea as the goal is for a virtual playground, we want people working together and getting to know each other and having fun. So we say, what are the things you need to be safe, be having fun, and in a classroom, like Bron talked about, which I loved, was the emphasis on learning. What do you need to be able to be an effective learner? This idea of asking our participants leads into something called designing an expected behaviours matrix. And this is a really simple set of values or behaviours that respond to and use the language of the kids that we work with. So we use the example of, if you're playing together in the room, a lot of the children thought it's really important to give each other personal space. So when to say, okay, give personal space, we actually recorded small videos of what that looks like when they're playing together. We also had a Discord channel happening as well in one of the studies I was involved with, and it was what sort of language should you use? How should you speak to each other so everyone has a turn? And the students actually suggested strategies, and we recorded them, small video models of what's letting other people having a turn at talking looks like. How can you check? What are those small indicators that someone else wants to say something? This is really important, that sort of explicit teaching of these skills, but drawing on what's important to them. And Jess, I know you're responding to someone else's question, but I thought, would you like to talk about digital games-based intervention?
Yeah, so digital games-based intervention, as I said, is a more structured, more explicit teaching model. So it's structured, but the thing is, like, the student voice still absolutely matters, and it's still about them and accommodating for their needs and supporting them. So the digital games-based intervention model tends to use things like visual supports. These are really good for kids with autism. They're an extra sensory channel, and it's something that helps cement it in their brain too, because they've got an extra visual cue. Teaching staff and allied health workers in this model take on more of an interventionist role than a facilitative role. So this is, you know, for people like me and Matt or anyone else who'd be working in this space, we are teaching. And it's a system for intervention that's co-designed with students that have neurological differences and disabilities. And the idea of this model is that games create the conditions. They are a vessel for the teachers and whoever else may be instructing to explicitly teach social skills for skill acquisition, and then coach them to refine these skills and support them to use them.
And just extending on Jess's point, we designed a 3-stage system, which is really around this idea of stage A. We use video modelling and video review. Stage B is coaching during play, which is the practice of the skills. And stage C is this idea of guided reflection, saying which skills we used. Now, what we find is really effective is actually recording the players working together in stage B when they're practicing the skills they've been learning about, and then playing it back to them the next week in stage A. So this is the idea of, like, you know, after a team has played a football game, they'll watch back the game tape. It's exactly the same. And we can actually use that as an avenue for teaching in a way that's meaningful for them. So in Minecraft play, this is really, really important. We can use a GoPro. We can actually film the room, or you can just use any other device that's approved by the department to record this footage. And then you can actually play it back to them. It's a really powerful tool because it actually makes sense to them. They are, like Bron was talking about the self-determination theory and how important it is that our players actually are involved. This is using an area of interest and an area of strength for them as a space to make social skills meaningful. And Jess and I always talk about, you know, sort of like what social skills should we really be focusing on. And we know there's been a shift now when supporting particularly students who are autistic. We want to make sure that we're teaching these functional collaborative social skills, really emphasising the skills that everyone needs to be able to engage in group activities and in collaborative problem solving, like taking turns. But we want to make sure that when we are teaching these skills, we allow them to show that they're taking turns in a way that works for them. And Jess, do you want to speak about that a little bit?
Sorry, what was that? My connection's a bit funny.
That's okay. I was talking about how important it is to make sure that even though we know every kid needs to learn how to take turns or show they're listening, sometimes autistic kids will show this in different ways, and we want to make sure that we accommodate that.
Yeah, 100%. So, you know, it's a difference. There's nothing wrong with these kids. They just communicate in a different way. And that's something we need to consider when we talk about social skills, you know, in this manner, because there's a difference between, cultural social skills, as on the slide, which are things that, you know, people do at a convention, you know, that are social conventions. And then we actually have our functional collaborative social skills, which, you know, facilitate social interactions. So it's about working with these kids to determine what are the ways they express their collaborative social skills, and how can we, you know, foster this to cement these skills and help them use them in everyday life.
Just our take-home sort of advice, our last few pieces of advice, is the idea of whether you're using the virtual playgrounds model or a more structured digital games-based intervention model, we say we want to let players choose how they interact with the game and their peers, so providing choice. And Julianne provided a wonderful example of that, providing choice within her lesson in terms of assessment. supporting multiple modes of communication, both verbal and non-verbal, and some really great tips around that, around talking about how you can show that you want to help, or how you can show that you want to share information with someone. Deciding those community values in a democratic way through this process of co-design, and then really supporting multiple modes of input. We've got a lot of students with fine motor, gross motor skill needs, and so using different controllers. And sort of the classic example we can see that's being used in a lot of schools now is this one, which is the Microsoft Adaptive Controller. You can use this with the Education Edition of Minecraft. So if you've got students who do need some support, they can use switches or modified controllers to actually play alongside their peers. Thank you very much. I think we've gone 30 seconds over. Sorry, Lauren.
No apologies needed. Thank you. I can see that there's been questions. I couldn't see those questions coming through when I had my slides up, so I apologise if I missed anyone, but I can see that Bron's been madly typing in some answers there. If anyone does have any questions for anyone that's been presenting today, if you either pop them into the chat, or if you want to unmute yourself and ask the question directly, you're welcome to do so just now.
And thank you, Bron. I had my screen covered. I can see you've been answering the questions, so thank you very much. I'd just like to, I think this is at the end of our session now, isn't it, Lauren? So I just wanted to thank you for emceeing today, and to thank our presenters. I'm not sure whether Kev or Nathan mentioned at the start of the session, I'm actually the Vice President of Digital Learning and Teaching Victoria. So on behalf of DLTV, I'd like to thank our presenters today. I'd like to thank you for emceeing, Lauren, and I'd really like to thank everyone who joined us today. I think there's such an exciting space around Minecraft, and Bron, the community that you helped facilitate with Lauren is just a wonderful, the innovation class is just a wonderful program. Kirsty and Julianne, thank you for joining us. We really appreciate your time. And Jess, as always, thank you very much.
No worries, man.
And I think that concludes today's session. So thank you very much, and hopefully see you at a DLTV event in the near future.